In Dishonored, you play as a royal guard of a country called Dunwall, which is infected by a deadly rat plague. The Empress was assassinated and the bad guys framed you as the murderer, and usurped the throne. You plot your revenge with other resistance members, and hope to bring the Empress's daughter, Emily, back to her rightful throne by killing the bad guys. The game setting is heavily inspired by the disaster caused by the bubonic plague, the disease that caused the infamous Black Death. To be more specific, it's inspired by the Great Plague that happened in London. Today, let's discuss how Dishonored mirrored the Black Death and compare them with the COVID-19 outbreak we are facing currently. The Rat Plague in Dishonored, just like the Great Plague that inspired it, mainly affected the poor. People infected with the plague is locked inside their houses with their family, and marked with a red cross, waiting for their death. The death count is so high that they run out of spaces to hold the corpses. What they do is that they stack the pile of corpses together and bury them. The places that promised medical care serves nothing more than a place where the sick can be quarantined together in a place and wait for their deaths. Sadly, things are not much different now. In India, the death count was so high that they ran out of hospital beds and oxygen for the patients. Patients were forced out of hospital due to having no oxygen, and their call for help for the hospital fell in deaf ears. Many people died in the streets waiting for the oxygen that never came. Their remains was piled up, and they don't have enough space for the corpses, and some already start to rot, waiting for their turn for cremation. Makeshift cemetery was made out of car parks. Now, what about the people of wealth? During the Great Plague, the rich ran away from London and leaving the poor behind. And a rich guy that chooses to stay built a glass wall to protect himself from the others. In Dishonored, only the rich could afford proper medicine and the poor is sick with no medicine. And the peasants are separated by the security forces and is shot down and killed if they trespass. The rich is free to celebrate and go on with their own lives. Nowadays, the people of wealth have monetary stability, while the poor is forced to live in concentrated places and forced to work because they are too poor to start doing nothing at home. And yet the privileged still indulge in their own life, traveling and gathering in groups. Now, despite portraying the disaster of the plague, the main objective in Dishonored is still to eliminate powerful political figures that wronged you. There's never an instance where the main objective is to save and serve the plague. Why is that? Well, during the era of the Black Death, war was the main reason that caused the pandemic. The plague started spreading in Europe due to the war at Kaffa, where corpses are launched using catapult into a city. The odor attracted rats, which brought the plague to the city. The people of the city then fled all over to other nations, spreading the disease. There are countless other wars where soldiers and refugees traveled around the world and became a vector for the disease. And Dishonored reflects that, as it's because of the war between the political figures that indirectly caused the innocent lives to be lost during the struggle. The player is purposely given a lot of tools and powers that could efficiently remove any threats in front of them by simply killing them. If the player only cared about efficiency and just kill everyone in his way, he will indirectly cause the plague to spread faster and faster, similarly to the people who waged war for power and revenge during the Black Death. However, if the player chooses the harder path and spare the lives of his enemies, he could make things change for the better. Just like how the volunteers in India that brings oxygen to the patients waiting in front of a church, or the angels in white risking their lives for the others. You as the player have the choice to take the harder path to save lives of the guards, even if the guards threaten the player's own life. Just like how the volunteers during the pandemic went out of their way to risk their own lives to save others. Thank you.